Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Psycho Gold Videos. Today on the channel we're going to be checking out Overlord Episode 6. I actually had to pause then to think about what episode we were on because I can't believe that we're already on Episode 6. It feels like the show only just started. Now after reading some of the comments on the previous video, majority of you seem to agree that this is when a new arc is going to start. In the last episode we had Ainz being a good guy, we had him welcoming people into the home of Nazarick, and we also got to see the relationship forming between the two characters from the first season that we kind of knew liked each other anyway, but they finally kind of spoken about it out loud. We've seen a lot of development from the inhabitants of Khan Village, and we've also seen that Ainz really liked my brain does not want to work with names today. I think the sister's name is Nemu, is that right? Someone don't shoot me. But yeah, he really liked the fact that she was so interested in what was going on within Nazarick. She wanted to see everything. He gave her the grand tour. He really liked the fact that there was someone so interested in him and the guild, and some of you didn't think I got that. I got the impression from the comments, but I did understand why. It wasn't like he just had an attachment to her because she's a child. However, what I was trying to say is that because she's a child, because she has that kid-like enthusiasm for everything, of course she was going to be interested in this massive, huge, impressive, sprawling place that they built. You know, there's a reason why video games capture children's imaginations when their own imagination, their own imagination isn't enough by comparison. It's one of the main complaints that a lot of the older generation have, is that because the new generation has so much that they're not using their own imagination. I think our generation that were born in the 90s and the late 80s, we had the advantage in that we saw the transition. You know, some of my younger cousins and siblings, they were kind of born into the generation that already had stuff, whereas we were born when it didn't exist, but we saw the rapid development of it existing very, very quickly. And I think it's one of those things that, a kid who could be taken into something as impressive and over the top as Nazarick by comparison to their village, which is essentially just a load of wooden huts, how could it not capture your attention? I mean, even as an adult, come on, if Nazarick was real and you were taken there and they weren't trying to kill you, it is an impressive place full of very impressive beings and creatures that, if they're told to be friendly to you, are very friendly and impressive and inviting. Obviously, the catch is that the majority of them actually want to cook you up, eat you, or dissect you for science. So I'm very curious as to see where the storyline is going to go in this particular episode. I've heard that this is where, or if it starts with the next arc, that Ainz is going to not be the friendly neighborhood father, dad figure that he kind of has become, and that the badass, violent Ainz that we got in sections of the first series might be bringing himself back to the forefront. And we kind of got a peek at reminding ourselves that Ainz is not someone to be messed around with when the giant war troll tried to crush him and his attacks didn't even faze him enough. As he so adequately said, "You're creasing my clothes," which I think is one of the best lines that Ainz has ever come up with. It's just so Ainz, it doesn't even faze him. So I'm very interested to see what happens in this episode. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it, dudes. 3, 2, 1, go. What? That's my friend, the Death Knight. What's going on? I'm confused. I thought the Death Knight was in Nazarick. Wait, is that the Death Knight? Yeah, it is. Okay, have I missed something? I'm very confused. I don't know who this guy is, but that I expect. But how has he captured the Death Knight? Oh, hello. He's got other undead under his control. Chapter 6. Invitation to Death. Okay. Oh! Interesting. Oh, okay. That's interesting. So, he's kind of like a democracy, but as someone said, he may be a democrat. He may be a dictator. That's what I meant to say, a dictatorship, not a democracy. It may be a dictatorship, but at least he makes the trains run on time. I like the way he shows respect to everyone. He's kind of keeping up that facade, building up his reputation with everyone. So he normally goes up against them in a war. Or just to keep them at the edge of exhaustion. Oh my god, how many titles does this guy have? Yeah, you don't want to meet Ainz. He's not a hero. Ah. Fair enough. So they're like his 4 elite. I kinda got that impression anyway from their superior armor to everybody else. He does? Oh, is this about the Death Knight maybe? Ah, well we're not gonna hear it. Oh, okay, so this is the other brother that we never see anything of then. It's interesting though that they look down on Gazef when he's the strongest warrior in the kingdom. Like, I dare you to go up against him then. Yep. I was gonna say, you only knocked him over, kid. Oh, okay. So he does actually think quite highly of Brain's combat technique then. So he's thinking about retiring then and maybe giving it to Brain. That's interesting. Oh, they're talking about Momon. I don't know who these people are, but that's who they're talking about. I was gonna say, it doesn't even look like the place you're drinking in is is open. Is this like another group of adventurers that we're going to be following? I don't know. Seems to be a lot of characters going on here. Wait. Hang on a minute. He specifically said tomb. I really hope that's not a great tomb, because that could go very, very badly for you. Yo, it is a newly discovered ruin. It is, isn't it? It's going to be the Tomb of Nazarick, but is it the real one, or is it the fake one? Either way, it's going to be heavily guarded. It's probably going to be the fake one thinking about it, otherwise it wouldn't have done its job. I hate to break it to him, but if you're sick of fighting undead, you might be disappointed what you find there. Oh, I wouldn't bet on that. Oh, okay, so she's the magic caster, which made sense. Oh, well, let's hope she doesn't look at Momon then. Well, it's a very interesting episode so far, but not quite the hype I was expecting. I think it's just introducing us to all these new characters to set up the fact of what's going to happen next, whatever that is. The fact that they're telling us what they're going to do when they retire lets me think that they are definitely not going to survive this. Oh, okay. So they're some of the nobles that the Emperor removed. And clearly they're not adjusting well to the fact their status, and as a result their finances have disappeared from that. I mean, it's a stupid... I mean, I get it from their point of view, but at the same time, it's like... If you've got kids, which they clearly do, and obviously 2 of them are still pretty young, you gotta think, well, what have you got to spend your money on? What I assume is some kind of lamp? Or, you know, them. Oh, those 2 are together properly. I wasn't quite sure of that at first. Oh, okay. So we're sending in quite a few teams. If this is Nazarick, this is going to be interesting. Well, he might be as good with Gazef, but we all know that that doesn't mean anything if he's going if they're going where I think they're going. Why is he going as well? That's interesting. Uh-oh. You probably shouldn't have said that, dude. So that is your choice, yeah, exactly. Just making it clear that you're all willingly going into this. Oh, okay, that's the end of that particular episode. I guess from now on, it's going to get interesting. If they're going into Nazarick, that's going to be a very interesting development. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That was the end of Overlord episode 6. Not quite the episode I was expecting. However, still a good episode nonetheless. Lots of talking, lots of exposition, introduction of new characters, and kind of showing you where some of the established characters are at. We got to find out that Brain is now working for the princess, and he's now training with Gazef, and Gazef's considering him as his replacement for when he retires, or possibly even if he falls in combat. We got introduced to the new kingdom. We've met the Emperor, his posse, for want of a better word. You know, he's got his entourage of his 4 knights, his head wizard. Still very confused as to what was happening with the Death Knight, though. Is that the one that Ainz summoned, or is that just a random Death Knight that the wizard is trying to control and not really having any success with? Curious to see that he is controlling undead and, like, using them to farm, harvest, put them near bodies and turn them into zombies. That was a weird thing. I don't think skeletons turn into zombies, but whatever. Then we got to see what was going on back in the kingdom that we've already spent a lot of time with, and we got to meet the other brother and his weird scarred companion who made it very clear they don't like Gazef, which probably means that they don't like the princess's bodyguard either, because they're both commoners and they only want nobles to be knights. It's a very old-fashioned point of view, but one that is pretty prevalent in a lot of English medieval history especially. And I think it's very similar across most other countries who had knights. You know, they were always, you know, knights was a status, not necessarily a class. So I find it interesting that in a world of magic and sorcery that, you know, this old-fashioned opinion of what a knight should be still exists. But then we got that continued by the fact that obviously there are adventurers outside of the guilds, and they're considered less because they'll do the jobs that the guilds don't want to do, have rules against doing, and they're more of your average workers. You know, they call them workers because, you know, they're just basically in it for the money. They're more mercenaries, which is slightly different, I suppose, to actual adventurers, but even so, they still appeared, you know, they look like they've got their reasons for doing what they do, and even though they might not have a problem doing the more morally grey stuff. At least in terms of foresight, they didn't seem particularly negative compared to any other guild that we've seen so far. And compared to some of the other characters that we've had introduced in the show in the past, we actually spent a lot of time with these new people for their first introduction, you know. Normally we don't get that much of an intro to new characters straight away, but these people, they were like the main focus of the episode for a significant portion, and then Momon turned up at the end. And yeah, I'm so convinced that it's Nazarick that they're about to assault, especially with Momon turning up at the end, basically trying to say, you know, why would you risk your lives? Oh, okay, it's for money. Well, I don't feel bad then when you die horrifically. Oh, that's the impression I got of his thought process then. It's like, why would you risk your lives? Like, in his... that's what he said, but in his mind he's saying, why are you going to so carelessly throw your lives away? And obviously when Matey turned around and said, well, we've been paid enough to do it, and he's like, oh, that was a daft question, of course it's money, never mind then. Throw your lives away. You know, it's that kind of realization. He thought, you know, maybe there's something more to this, but there isn't. So yeah, I'm excited to see the next episode where maybe we will see, you know, them trying to sneak in or break in, whatever it is they're going to do. I'm assuming that it's the fake Nazarick though that they've all discovered, so again it will be very interesting to see what's going to be waiting for them. Obviously if they were attacking the real Nazarick, they'd have to go up against everything, and that I doubt they'd even make it to the front door, but fake Nazarick, I'm very curious to see what's going to be waiting for them. Will people like Hamaske be there? Will the Naga that he recruited in one of the previous episodes be there? You know, it's going to be... I'm curious to see whether or not it's going to be an all-out bloodbath where Ainz' followers kill him. Will Ainz turn up himself? Because obviously he's more than capable of keeping up both appearances. He could leave Narb at the camp and Momon could walk off to do a patrol and then teleport in somewhere as Ainz, and vice versa. But then that does beg the question of, is Ainz going to want the adventurers to win or to lose? Because if they all lose, then more adventurers are going to want to come and tackle Nazarick, or the fake Nazarick. But if they win, then that's the Nazarick put to rest and probably won't be that interesting to anybody else, so they'll be left alone again. There's merits in both. On the other hand, if he flat out steamrolls them, that as Ainz Al Ghun, then he's going to spread his name even more, so there's merits on both sides of the fence, and I guess the only way I'm gonna know is when that episode comes out, or I could read the light novels, but I just watched the anime. But you know, I'd still love to do light novel readings and reviews in the future. Just gotta get to that point when buying the light novels isn't gonna break the bank so hard. But anyway guys, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below letting me know what you thought of this episode, and if you're new here, click that subscribe button to be notified whenever we post a new video, and follow us on this journey of Ainz Al Ghun. That's all from me for today folks. As always, I am Psycho Gold, and I will see you in my next video. Psycho Gold, out.